So thank you for being here tonight. A very, very warm welcome to everybody who's here, everybody who's joining us virtually. And to begin, I would like to invite Sis Weiss up to give a land acknowledgement.
Just gonna do that if that's okay. It's hard to sing with one of those on. So, Hatsquile eich tenoya, toitstanat quian quinshaman, sis quian sna, an hall in squallowin, an wanaxton squallowin teetsits. Also want to further say Tanachantla Slahan Olchameo, Skomish Chen, Eman, Tanatla Stalo, Hawaiian, a Swiss. So I just wanted to share a bit of my culture and who I am, and was just saying that I come from the village of Slahan, which is just a little west of here. And actually, from what I know about this site, it was a very sacred site. When they were building this gallery, there was a petroglyph found underneath here of a drawing of the profile of a mountain goat skull, and it's a big part of our culture. The mountain goats connect us to our warmth in the winter. Of course, on a day like today, you're probably thinking, why would we think about winter? But you know, in the long ago, our people had to spend every season thinking about the next 3 seasons. So everything that we've always done has always been to look ahead. And our stories keep us connected to the past. So our future tense is always living in different timelines, looking at the past, speaking in the present time, but speaking of what is to come in the future. And so thinking about the mountain goat wool and the Salish woolly dogs and the plants that we gather at this time of year, the chacht, or the fireweed fluff that will be coming out soon. I'm sure everybody in here with pollen allergies is like, why would you talk about that? Just drink some stinging nettle tea and it'll be just fine. Most people don't know that stinging nettle has an antihistamine in it, and so that is what you drink in the summer to deal with your pollen allergies and dust allergies. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know who I am. I'm Skomish, I'm Hawaiian, I'm Swiss, and and that I come from these lands and waters, and if people haven't checked out the show next door, I'm also in that show, so a little not shameful at all, self-promotion, because it took me a long time to get in this kind of gallery, so I'm bragging about it. Yeah. I've also acquired another title since I wrote in the Capilano Review many years ago, and so I'm now wearing the title of doctor, so it's Dr. Cease. Anhach. So I want to share a song from my community that is speaking of the past. This song comes from the long ago. It's one of our old songs. I always look down because sometimes you're on short. I'm like, oh good, I have lots of room. This song is from the very long ago, and one of the moments in our history where it became very popular with our culture and up till now is when that machine that we called the Iron Horse, and you all call the train, arrived in Vancouver, and our leaders had brought leaders from other nations around BC to come and greet that train, and they took that train across the country, and then they took that ship across the other big ocean. And when they arrived, they had to wait a month to see the royal family, because the royal family heard there was a group of indigenous people coming from the Wild West to talk to them about our lands and waters. So they took off for a little vacation, so to speak. They thought 2 weeks, those indigenous people will get tired and go home. Well, no, they waited, and those men waited for a month, and they spent a whole month in London in their beautiful sacred mountain goat wool robes, their cedar and mountain goat wool clothing. And they did finally meet with the king and queen, and they told them that we're never giving up this land. And so when we talk about this being unceded territories, that most of BC, 98% of BC is unceded still, and even the treaties haven't been written yet. So this song comes from that journey. Well, it comes from longer ago, but this song became known as the Siam Slolum at that time, and Slolum means sacred song. So this song was about calling attention to that work that got done. And so we are still standing up to those powers that be, and we've never let go of our placehold here, despite all our land being preempted and stolen in many other ways. We still are from here, and we haven't left. We're not erased. I can tell you a lot of other stories, but I'm going to go into this song, and I'm going to let you have a really beautiful evening. And I'm going to end this with saying that usually these welcoming events happen with you out on the water. So I'm going to actually pretend you're all on the water right now, and I'm going to decide if you can come ashore. So you're going to have to give me your best energy, so I want to know that you're worthy of coming ashore. And that's how we really do the protocols. We don't just let everybody in. You know, we did this with all of our guests from all over the place. When they would land on the water, they would ask permission to come ashore. And if they weren't given permission, they'd have to leave. And that is a real thing. And I have witnessed that in my life. So, you know, we do take it seriously. And this is not a token act. Really want to make that clear, because some people think it is, and this is not a token act. This is like, show me your best face, show me your integrity. OCM. OCM, Huichak Yoth, All right, come on ashore. Enjoy your time. Have a good feast. And go home and tell everybody how great we are here. OCM.
Thank you, Dr. Weiss, and congratulations on that. Thank you for those words of welcome and for the challenge to be worthy and gracious guests on this land, so much appreciated. I'm Deanna Fong. I am the newly minted literary editor of the Capilano Review. And I am just so grateful to be gathered here with everybody today. I feel like I'm getting a bit of feedback, hey? Are we good? We're good. Okay. I also wanted to say that as a publication that's historically been run by settlers, we're working to address the fact that the indigenous name Capilano, often transliterated and anglicized as Capilano, has been used in our magazine's title since 1972 without acknowledgement. If you'd like to read about our ongoing discussion and accountability process in our use of the name Capilano, we invite you to visit the section titled On the Name Capilano on our website. And here we would like to acknowledge the work of our naming committee, Colin Brown, Emily Dundas Oak, David Geary, Matea Kulich, and Jastes Ludu. So some quick front matter. I wanted to let you know that this event is being recorded. If you have any issues with being in the audience of the recording, please just come see me after the show and we'll see what we can do. As for COVID protocols, we ask that you wear a mask at all times when you're in the room, especially if you're seated. And if you're eating and drinking, please to do so outside in the fresh air. And to let you know that there are accessible washrooms just outside the door on your left. And by way of a little introduction to this evening tonight, this event celebrates the Capilano Review's 50th publication year by activating the contents of our 3 anniversary issues, 3.46, 3.47, and 3.48. Tonight's event brings together in-person and recorded readings from contributors to the 3 issues, alongside audio selections drawn from the TCR archives to consider the ways experimental writing and practices reverberate among us sonically. As former editor Matea Kulich asks in her introduction to the 50th anniversary series, what are our criteria for experimental writing? Experimental is in quotes. What does it look like on the page, and how does it sound? As a contact point between the past and the unfolding present, sound evokes both the materiality of language that so many of the works in these issues engage through repetition and variation, wordplay, and double entendre, and also a vocal materiality linked to individual speakers, their bodies, and voices. Indeed, the audio recordings in the TCR archives, you'll hear some selections tonight, testify to the timbre, grain, and intonation of the many speakers they record, some of whom are dear, missed, and beloved. In meditating on what 50 years of the Capilano Review might sound like, we have endeavored to put together a program that is dynamic, celebratory, and guided by the curiosity of our listening ears. So we would like to thank the 50th Anniversary Editorial Committee, Andrea Actis, Colin Brown, Jenny Pemberthy, Matea Kulich, whose editorial note you can read at the head of the spring issue. Thank you to Managing Editor Lauren Lavery and Arts Editor Jacqueline Ross for their work on the issues, and really the heavy lifting for planning this wonderful event tonight, so thank you for that. And please go and say hi to them at the merch table afterward. Special thank you to our board chair, Jenny Pemberthy, who's been involved in all the aspects of the production of these issues. Thank you to our wider editorial board, and of course to TCR founder Pierre Coupé. Thank you to the Polygon Gallery for hosting us tonight, the Canada Council Reopening Fund, our technicians Val McHugh and John Young, and our bar staff outside. And finally, thanks to the readers, both in person and virtual, as well as all those in attendance tonight. And I'm going to invite Colin up to introduce Pierre.
I was on Saturn Island, escaping from the military, and I saw a copy of the Capilano Review and this name, Pierre Coupé, and I thought, oh, a cut stone, like a gemstone in a way, and I thought, perhaps not with the hard facets, but I was thinking as I was coming together with some words, I thought, but the flame within that crystal is still burning brightly, the crystal that is Pierre. He arrived in Vancouver from Montreal in the mid-1960s. He'd published one book of poetry, Bring Forth the Cowards, in the McGill Poetry Series. The first volume in that series was Leonard Cohen's Let Us Compare Mythologies. In 1967-68, he became a co-founding editor of the Georgia Straight. He was 25. And in 1971, he became the founding editor of the Capilano Review. He continued in that role until 1976 and picked it up again from 1989 to 1991. He set the tone. He did not want to create another self-important, stuffy institutional journal, and he didn't. TCR was created to help shake things up, to reflect and to participate in the conversations going on at the time between poets and artists in other disciplines, all of whom were making every effort to expand or demolish disciplinary walls, and in poetry, to listen. The Capilano Review and the Western Front, remember, were established at the same time. And there was considerable traffic then between Vancouver and Toronto, as well as with poets and artists in the United States. Thank you, Canada Council. Remember the Canada Council? The 50 years of TCR stands as a remarkable documentary record of an era. Thanks, Pierre, for your vision, your attention to design, and your insistence, a natural inclination, I suspect, to embrace the work of visual artists and to take such care with reproductions. How rare that was and is. And of course, for your poet's eye and your poet's ear, which 50 years on are as keen as ever, perhaps even more highly tuned. I use the word poet as Cocteau understood it. I want to add a note about Pierre's painting. He works with what is called abstraction. His work is sensual, often lyrical, and reveals what is concealed, feared, unrecognized, and longed for. Each painting a portal. It's what we'd see if the doors of perception were thrown open wide. The beautiful, the eternal, and often the unbearable. When we come away, we are no longer strangers to ourselves. For this, we thank you too, Pierre. I'd like to think that since the founding of the magazine, the true nature and consequences of the colonial enterprise have become more evident, and that justice will be done and redress quickly follow. TCR, with its hunger for truth and change, has a role to play. I'm reminded this evening of the shipbuilding industry that was right here during the Second World War. Dee Livesey lived in North Vancouver at the time. And Pierre was present in 2009 at the ceremony to unveil the lines from her poem, The Unquiet Bed, on the plaza outside the North Vancouver Library. Thinking about this harbor, I find myself recalling her documentary poem, West Coast 1943, set right here. And these lines are hers: water, blue and violet, quick magenta flash from welder's torch, the flame. Pierre Coupé.
Well, what can one say after that? That's too gorgeous. And the welcoming ceremony was so wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Cease, wherever you are. Wichka. And it's truly humbling. And I'm going to be tearing up already, for God's sakes, and I haven't even started. Let me find my notes here. Patty and I came down from Whistler to be here tonight. And yesterday I emailed Jenny and said, well, I'm just going to ad-lib because it doesn't seem to me that this is going to be anything really formal. And she emailed me back this morning last night she emailed me back. And I read it this morning at 6:45, and it said, oh no, this is a formal occasion. And you better prepare your notes and do a speech. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I got to work and put something together by about 8:15 this morning. And then Jenny emails or calls me later today, and we'll talk about that later, okay? But you know Jenny, she's a smart lady. So this is the 50th anniversary of this magazine. 50 years ago in 1972, I was 30 years old, and in a few weeks I'll be 80. And I never thought either of us would make it this long. But at least TCR is forever young. It doesn't show the scars because each issue it gets renewed, you know, they just don't accumulate in that way that it does on our bodies. The Capilano Review, for much of its life, was intimately entwined with the English department at Capilano College, where we modeled ourselves, whether it was conscious or not, on Black Mountain College, in that we were a department largely composed of writers, teachers who practiced the craft, teachers who practiced and loved and struggled with the craft that they were expounding to the students weekly and daily. And we were at that time dedicated to the new and experimental, and I think we still are. The Capilano Review editors, with one exception, came largely from the English department at that time, in the first 40 years of its life. A talented pool of writers, including, among others, and I can't name everybody because we had so many wonderful people with us at that time. But following me was Bill Schrumbrucker. Daphne Marlatt was teaching at that time and was our poetry editor. Dorothy Jansen, Robert Sharon, Ryan Knighton, Sharon Thiessen, Sharon Thiessen, wait a second, I skipped. Dorothy Jansen, Robert Sharon, Ryan Knighton, Sharon Thiessen, Jenny Penberthy, Brooke Hoagland, and more. The exception was Anne Rosenberg, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, as Bill is not with us, unfortunately. We'd love to have them here. Anne Rosenberg was a gifted art historian who established the art history department at CAP. Well, why did she become one of the editors of the Capilano Review when it was supposedly primarily a literary magazine? Well, it wasn't primarily a literary magazine. One of the original aims of the Capilano Review was to publish visual art as an equal alongside poetry, fiction, and drama, and all the other genres, something that most other literary magazines or little mags didn't do at the time. As a then poet, it's very kind of you, Colin, but I love what you said in the sense of Cocteau, but mostly I'm a painter. That was one of the main ambitions that I had for the magazine. And I'm really very satisfied and gratified that that ambition has been so fully maintained and achieved over these last 50 years. Anne brought her love of the visual arts to TCR, and each editor brought his or her own passion to the magazine. And that fulfilled for me another ambition, to establish a principle that I failed to establish at the Georgia Strait, that other paper that I co-founded in 1967 with another group of writers, many of them from the Tisch Group. Stan Persky was at that original meeting that we had in order to start the Georgia Strait. The principle was simple and was this: neither the paper nor the magazine should belong to any one editor forever. The publication was larger than any of us, as it belonged to an idea, a passion that was greater than any of us. TCR did not belong to me. I wanted a succession of editors whose voices would have an opportunity to blossom. And for me, the passion driving TCR at its inception came directly from William Carlos Williams' invocation of René Char, a poet Williams praised as one who believed in the power of beauty to right all wrongs. It's a lovely poem that I'm sure you all know, to a dog injured in the street. Williams called upon all of us to believe in that power. The Capilano Review came alive in a time of many wrongs. Establishment and police repression aimed at the subversive energies of the young, a brutal war in Vietnam to which we were fiercely opposed, and a conservative hatred of progressive ideas about equality and justice. I wanted the Capilano Review to do whatever it could to advance that power. I think the evidence is there in all the issues that we've seen over the last 50 years. I want to thank all the readers, all the supporters, all the contributors, all the staff, all the editors over these last 50 years for keeping TCR alive, for their belief in the arts, and for being a force for those very old but essential ideas, truth and beauty. Finally, I want to thank in particular Jenny Penberthy and Colin Brown for their enormous contribution to making the Capilano Review one of the most wonderful magazines we can imagine, and to thank the recent and current generation of editors, Andrea Actis, Catriona Strang, Ben Stewart, Matea Kulik, Jacqueline Ross, and now Tiana Fong, among others, for their intelligence and dedication. We wish them well, and happy birthday, TCR. Thank you.
Sorry, me again. Oh dear. So Deanna and I are going to introduce the readers. And the first one is going to be on the screen. It's Maxine Gadd. Maxine first contributed to issue 1.6, fall 1974, so a very early contributor. And her poem, The Flying Eagle, appeared in TCR 3.46, which is the Bill Bissett Festschrift in 1997. Maxine's a Vancouver-based poet who lives and works in Vancouver's downtown east side. She's published numerous books in little magazines and chapbooks, including Westerns, Hochelaga, and Fire in the Cove. Some wonderful chapbooks, as well as Lost Language from Coach House in 1982, Back Up to Babylon, New Star 2006, and Subway Under Byzantium, New Star 2008. Max described this collection, The Subway Under Byzantium, as 5 sets of apocalyptic poems from the end of the 20th century, demonic particulars in the Angel of Air, Loon Lake, Boatload to Atlantis, Styx, and Subway Under Byzantium. Maxine Gadd.
Thank you, Judy.
She is a good friend of mine.
Judy and I have done all sorts of crazy riffs together in the 60s especially. We once belonged to a group called the Poetry Front, which would go raging all over the place and getting more outrageous all the time, farther and farther, I think, from the word and closer to something. I guess the Four Horsemen seems to be into what we were doing then. We'd do a lot of very spontaneous collaborations, but right on stage. It's some strange stories. But I don't know. You see, I don't really know what poetry is anymore, whether I'm a poet anymore, because I don't write very much anymore. So this is all past, but most poetry I've read has a concern with the question of what is poetry, and I've got more of a political, sociological orientation to things. So I say, my feeling more is, what is the poet? How come you're asked to recite and you're not, or vice versa? Because I know a lot of good poets who aren't published at all and don't want to be. So most of my poetry is raving and bitching, or has been. There's an old one. She has a bitch about running with the cocks, and all of Lady Liza's laughter lace her face like buckshot in a black's bare ass, softened now by the blue arms of Shiva or Krishna's whispering. In media res, to speak softly to sealed-off people would be one way, as there are wings to any body. This to what? Ah, the islands. Ask to be captive of it, thinking of what? The cell, she of ibis, central emptiness. He says, burn with your own being, but please without heat. I says, I'm gonna die. But he says, die, and I don't wanna. Fisherman, capitalist in medium, deep sea, or in the juice. Oh, is the cold downtown steam bath. They wouldn't let a path to any pleasure, to a lady. Your empty spaces let for resonance. Who cares? The leopards and huge insects, your Mr. Horror and his lady, their predecessors in dress suits, in their tombs playing regal hardness, mathematical smiles, whales fading as brilliant shadows into their birth flames. Hard box, fought and lost, Mount Everest that the fat man flew over, laughing in ochre horizon up on his head. What is this, your scrambled fingers? The joints are what you touch, the object, your fast-flying heart, you thought, turning the muzzle of the gun toward the backboard, reducing the chances of your death and enhancing the glamour of the standers-by. Capital. Now we make the crystal twists go up to the roof of the hall. Not nearly enough now. Nothing on my floor, my feet. No, never let go. No, the what falling, the donkeys honking, the pleasure park here, where, no, please, along the blue-green, sick, we won't, a compulsive walking, sick with Arab perfume.
Thank you, Maxine. Our next readers are here with us tonight, Annie Ross and Catriona Strang. Annie Ross first became a contributor to TCR in the issue 3.33, the fall of 2017, which was edited by her collaborator, Catriona. Catriona's involvement with the magazine dates back to 1996 in the special double issue, A Festschrift for Robin Blazer. Annie Ross is a teacher slash artist slash community member of the Canadian West in love with Mother Earth. Catriona Strang is the author of Low Fancy, Corked, Reveries of a Solitary Biker, and Unfuckable Lardass, a co-author with the late Nancy Shaw of Busted, Cold Trip, and Light Sweet Crude. She frequently collaborates with composer Jacqueline Legat. Please welcome Annie Ross and Catriona Strang.
Fish head, sea greens, potatoes, cooked over a driftwood fire, orange flames, cave wall, frozen night of the black hero twins in a winter squall.
Unjustly fuckbelly rapture, hopeless insert or rough chat counsel, some lens for unseeing all we did fuck up.
My mother said, I know them. My friends said they would come. I had gathered potential breaks, floured clay dishes, mixed styles from the Baptist mission store, spoons, bread, all snug as a bug fabric, napkins made from festive tablecloths and sand.
Sometimes pain fucks me sideways, Anglo-Saxon straining at my own margins, my fucked back sets these teeth of mine in the mouth margins. Sometimes I can't stand grit fucking. Sometimes that's my fretful, de-centered edge.
And I waited. One road out island. It's small, not a one came to our holy observance. Cottonwood trees, rivers, meets, meetings, saltwater flying. Our only faces, salmon heads, my reflection, the moon in broth.
But there's still hard grit between the teeth in my mouth. And what about the debt fucked? Fulling buds on my feckless brain, but really loan me any other fucking function.
Our enamel pot, we watch them. It's the same stars we watched 3,800 years before, ahead, eternal.
When did I come so closely to resemble the Venus of Willendorf? How deep into the earth might my spine dissolve? Why am I ambivalent? How hard can my tongue press against my teeth? How far will that red stain spread? Feels good until you stop scratching. How fucked up is that?
North Pacific rose in gales, as is wont to do, be as sunset hours eons ago. Night beings blew out our fire. Grit became perfume floating. A red fox watched, reading our souls. I left our warm and filling pot behind, open for every hungry soul.
Sideways straining in this mouth grit, some fulsome folly or febrile inset rupture, grafts, candid rustling grips, ruin, all roiling. People, what the fuck? Thank you.
Our next poet is Aisha Sasha John, and she's going to be in the video. Her work first appeared in issue 3.2, edited by Jenny Penberthy in 2010. This issue also featured work by Meredith Quartermain, who you'll hear from later. With Alexa Solveig Martin, Aisha also guest edited the Winter 21 special issue, I'm Looking for a Way to Dance. Aisha is the author of the 2018 Griffin Poetry Prize nominated collection, I Have to Live, as well as Thou from Book Hug 2014, and the chapbook To Stand at the Precipice Alone and Repeat What is Whispered. Aisha is a choreographer and performer, and her first ensemble work, Diana Ross Dream, will premiere in fall 2022 at La Chapelle in Montreal. Aisha.
Hi everybody, it's Aisha. I'm actually in Vancouver right now. I am at a house near Renfrew and Hastings, but the time at which you will be watching this, I will be in Toronto. So I'm supposed to be reading you. I look like myself. I'm supposed to be reading you my poem, but I don't want to. I'm not interested in that poem anymore, except for one line, which is the line, as with then, I am what chose as world. As with then, I am what chose as world. I want to leave that line with you. That is my offering to you. May you be blessed.
So next up, we will have SF Ho. And SF first joined us in the summer of 2020, issue 3.1, in a collaborative piece with Megan Hepburn, Erica Holt, and Kaylin Pierce. SF is an artist living on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. They're cultivating a practice of wary sociality, never finishing books, and being sort of boring. They published a novella about aliens and love called George the Parasite. Here is SF.
Hello? Hi. Okay. Whelp. Young whelps with sinew side eyes, young whelps who hide behind baggy clothes, young whelps who marinate in originality. Young whelps are wrinkly, young whelps are hungry. Young whelps hunt for a scratch, a friend. Young whelps who don't trust instinct or expression. Young whelps who don't see the point in culture or desire. Young whelps who understand power as strictly defined by capital. Young whelps who dream of spreading an abstraction of value evenly across the surface of the earth like a thin layer of margarine. Young whelps who recoil from things that they are and can't fit into. Young whelps who feel despair. Young whelps who go to parties feeling half removed from the people and objects that surround them. Young whelps who go to parties the only drunk in the room. Young whelps who are always sober. Young whelps who linger distractedly in conversation and track the people that they wish to avoid with their eyes. Young whelps who drink from still waters. Young whelps who take satisfaction in unseasoned food. Young whelps who love their pack with a ferocity that they can't comprehend. Young whelps who reiterate thoughts often articulated over the slow cycle of generations. Young whelps who simultaneously speak in the first, second, and third person. Young whelps who find outlet in being helpful, yet cannot articulate need. Young whelps who cannot acknowledge intimacy. Young whelps who equate control with stability. Young whelps who take pleasure in confession. Young whelps impartially egalitarian. Young whelps secretly repressed. Young whelps who revel in the innocence of perpetual faith. Young whelps who revel in a future euphoria. Young whelps who are certain that the future is irrevocable. Young whelps who drag you home with teeth. Young whelps who carry the scent of decay and ambition on their breath. Young whelps who unconsciously breathe into a much slower demise. Young whelps ripped by a river. Young whelps turn into rain. Young whelps float almost transparent in cool flowing water laced with trash and oil. Young whelps, soft as suede. Young whelps who name you Jane. Young whelps who change in relation to what they are in relation with. Young whelps who change into something they are not. Young whelps chasing an unnameable light. Young whelps calling you home. Ahistorical youth run with the pack, torn from land behind all that. Oblivious, your laughter blossoms from the rotten past, the hidden past. You just seem cool with your long hair. Being mean to young girls or boring men is funny if, frustrated by happiness, people don't seem like people. Screens are actors asleep to the living. It seems so petty, our small machismos. How could such a tiny piece of hate have the power to fuel wars when we can't even find love? I'm still like that. I'm sorry. You were different. Your prescient wisdom and everyone was into you. Isn't that enough? Couldn't tell we needed help. Whelp. Do you remember dislocated eyes, seen again in different faces, glazed over to glimpse your own reflection? I listened to you sing a song. Water swallows the earth, absence and presence as levels rise. The world is too real for this childish grief, minor chords in my dilaudid soaked ear. Your dead voice comes to life, alone together now. I stole a tape out of your car. It was probably around 2005. You seemed much older then, and I'm probably older today. Children so hard or so soft, and now I'm only harder or softer. Beat each other up, unaware of a planet conspiring to kill us. No conspiracy, just material and spiritual scarcity. All the usual stuff that comes with what I mean is gifts. What I mean is gifts are not enough. Whatever happened to, I haven't talked to him in years, man. Momentary glimpse reflected in the man of the world. I can't help you over and over the years. They wear on you. Glide hundreds of miles over nothingness. No answer for this kind of decay. Balance a sphere on your pinky finger. Ride the air. The cuts perpendicular to the crease of your forehead. Agitate about plates, hair, speech, a knock on the door. Everything too rough and different from your familiar world. Why does my heart break for people despite the bad things they've done? Echoes of you today, surrounded by precocious kids, break them out, this culture of quiet violence to kill or be killed by. Sit inside another's rage until a touch or a sound translates into something understood. To become one with a missing father, to become one with a killer, to become one with this unknown history. Fishbone caught in throat, your worn face, your strange grave. See you tomorrow, TWJJS, XOXO, Adrian. Thanks.
Thanks, SF. One of the many reasons why we're so excited about conceiving around this evening around the idea of sound. I was really happy to hear that in your voice. So next is Oana Avasilichioaei, who is joining us, I believe, online from Montreal. So hi, Oana. Oana's work first appeared in issue 3.3 in the fall of 2007. She's a poet, translator, sound artist, and performer based in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Her sixth collection of poetry hybrids include 8-track, which was a finalist for the A.M. Klein Poetry Prize and the Governor General's Literary Award for Poetry, and Liminal from Talon Books in 2015. And she's prepared a video for us tonight.
The stage consists of 2 enormous verso-recto pages, slanted at a steep angle, as though the stage, i.e., the book, is about to be closed shut or is just being opened. The characters have fallen into the gutter and are struggling to extricate themselves by using various linguistic strategies and, more or less effective tactics.
I think we need to catch this blank terrain unawares, so maybe you three could vibrate in a line while I veer off in unexpected directions.
No. We should push forth as one and by sheer strength of repetition obliterate all opposition in our path.
You are all right. We should create a slant, a type of ladder, and gradually attain some sort of edge.
Or we could simply rock and vibrate ourselves into a frenzy until we create a shockwave that propels us out of here.
They all mumble and dither while pondering these options.
I've always admired brute force. I mean, why are we in this if not to conquer?
To offer alternatives? To stray from the standard path?
Maybe, but there will always be forces, like this interminable page, confronting us, trying to overpower or lead us askew.
So we push our way through the mire at an angle.
In turn, they attempt OM strategy. They fail. They attempt OS's strategy. They fail. They attempt OO's strategy. They fail. They attempt OL's strategy. They fail. Dejected, they slump further into the gutter.
Let's take sharp turns.
Let's make a fist.
Let's go slanty.
Let's stray.
Time passes. A minute, a few days, some months, a year or two.
What if we move, i.e. right, as though building a ziggurat?
Been there, done that.
In going from the synthesizer to the modulator, vocables jar like electricity.
Is conflict a given, a bare necessity?
In listening to the chaos, we become productive.
Or at least reverberate into new patterns.
They look up to the far reaches of the stage in unison.
In time, the architecture, i.e. the syntax, will become overgrown with foliage and vegetation, i.e. its music. We can see this as a new form of symbiosis.
A confluence of difference that
we can scale to the upper
edge and then jump off into
the unknown,
i.e. the exhumed.
Well, as you know, by now, that Daphne Marlatt was the poetry editor for the Capilano Review between 1973 and 1975. In 1979, her In the Month of Hungry Ghosts was published in a double issue by the Cap Review, along with Michael Ondaatje's Running in the Family. And the winter anniversary issue, 3.46, these numbers, I'm sure there won't be a test, marked Daphne's 15th publication in TCR, 15 times. Wonderful. In 1977, Daphne co-founded Poetics, a magazine of prose, and that lasted from 1977 to 1981. Remember what you wrote in the final issue too, Daphne. Among her earlier texts, all linguistically adventurous, ahead of their time, expanding the documentary, taking on other forms and other media in relation to language, are Vancouver poems, Steveston, Our Lives, Opening Doors, Vancouver's East End, which was co-edited with Carol Itter, What Matters, The Gull, which was a no play, Liquidities, Vancouver Poems, Then and Now, and Intertidal. In 2021, Talon Books published her book, her narrative poem sequence, Then Now, which returns to the territory of In the Month of Hungry Ghosts. In May of this year, UBC Opera remounted Shadowcatch, a 2011 Fire Hall Theatre production for which she wrote the no-inspired libretto, and if you missed it or if you saw it, you'll be glad to know that it will be published this coming spring by Talon Books, which I think is wonderful. So Daphne Marlatt, please.
Thank you, Colin, for that introduction. I just want to make a little statement of congratulations. Can you hear me? Is this all right? Yeah. Way back in the early 1970s, when Pierre first spoke at an English department meeting at what was then Capilano College about starting a little magazine with Bill Schirmbrucker as fiction editor and myself as poetry editor, I don't think any of us imagined that it would last for 5 decades as an independent entity. Very warm congratulations and appreciation, not only to Pierre for his vision then, but to all the review's successive editors who have worked so hard to keep this outlet for writers and artists not only alive, but constantly new. I Digress begins with a quote from Jaspreet Singh, "We are creatures of digression," and ends with a quote from Robert Duncan's title poem in Roots and Branches, 1964. Under soil cover, roots web to surface blue parries around, winkling a way up, tenders a petal tender untoward. Splash of water on page, actual accident? What is? So I digress, stray, extend around late morning lines for Earth's wreckage. Digging it up, oil drill seismic, elephant footing. This web outreach, toughing it up under green, blue, sensate, yes and no egress from this tangle, branchlets away from, simply to go, transgress, you snail-like, vinca binding, or some say creeping, myrtle hardy, mirthful, hardly, periwinkle blue fashion. I digress. I fictitious in face of this, to weed, to will. Some other design over blue upstart communal tracery. Out of air, earth, unseen roots and branches of sense, where Duncan's monarchs sailed over flowery markets, since fallen, yet to inscribe, persist in this mesh, this brokenness. Thank you.
Now, it's also my pleasure to introduce Robin Blazer on video. And you may know him, poet, teacher, editor, essayist, and librettist. Contributed to 11 issues of TCR beginning in 1974. And in 1996, there was a double issue Festschrift for Robin. Blazer was a key figure in the San Francisco Renaissance of the 1950s and 60s. He moved to Vancouver to teach at SFU and later received an honorary degree from that institution. He was the author of numerous collections of poetry, including The Moth Poem, Les Chimères, Cups, Imaginations 1 to 12, and The Stadium of the Mirror, Syntax, Pell Mell, and the first edition of The Holy Forest, which collected his work. In 2000, his libretto for Harrison Birtwistle's The Last Summer premiered in Berlin. Now, I have to say, that when it comes to operas, the composer is always first, and the writer always comes second. I think it should be equal. His writing has been collected into 3 volumes. Another edition of The Holy Forest, collected poems of Robert Blazer. The Fire, collected essays of Robin Blazer, edited by Miriam Nichols. And Even on Sunday, essays, readings, and archival materials on the poetry and poetics of Robin Blazer. In 2006, Blazer received the Griffin Trust for Excellence in Poetry's Lifetime. Sorry, I'm going to start that again. In 2006, Blazer received the Griffin Trust for Excellence in Poetry's Lifetime Recognition Award. 2 years later, The Holy Forest was honored with the 2008 Griffin Poetry Prize. In a 2007 interview, Blazer said, "Language is a way in which you are never simply yourself." Robin Blazer.
And in my poem, the moth poem, which so many of you know, the poem opened, for those who don't know, the poem opened, I was wakened early in the morning, 3 or 4, with the sound in the piano, a magnificent sound in the piano, and there was no explanation of it. And I got up to find out what it was, and the moth had been moth had been caught under the strings of the piano, and as it in frenzy to get out, it played. It was a magnificent sound. The sound of it is here on the back page of the book. But in the poem, as we move, that's the opening of the poem, as we move, one night sitting, as the poem moved and not knowing where it was going to move, I heard the sound, it, and it was a moth at the window attracted by the light hitting the glass. And the poem, it is that, and I, as I say, returned it at the end of the evening. A white shadow there on the glass, the white T-shirt turns that are no longer an endless meaning, leans forward to the shaping to find it a flutter of the darkness, but it ducks back from the open slit of the window. A cinnamon moth enters, and amorous, the lamp takes it. Came back from the back garden, planted with pale flowers that might show in the dark. It mocked, tripped, then toted its image, having no past, unprepared. The moth kiss has 2 languages, the one everyday, dusty, habitual, and part delight. The other, an unexpended myth, washes against the glass to be abstract, untied by the friendship, the moment caught.
So we are about to have a brief intermission. I think before I do that, I'm going to invite David Geary up to entice you with a first line of a haiku that you can mull over during the break.
Hi everyone. I've actually got quite a few first lines for you to have a crack at. If you know anything about haiku, it was actually something that a lot of people did just in their ordinary lives. And there were these things called renga parties, where the haiku master would give a few lines and then everybody would join in. So I am no master, but I am going to encourage you to do that. And I'm going to set up some stations to do that. And I thought I would offer a prize of that. Now that may put you off, but I was trying to figure out what a haiku master would look like now. If that is not what you'd like as a prize, I will buy you a copy of the Capilano Review. So I will set up a station over here. That is my invitation to you all. And as we saw from Maxine at the start, Capilano Review was always about spontaneous collaborations. So here is your chance to enter into the spirit of the Capilano Review. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm hoping, I have my eye on that hat. So we're taking a 15-minute intermission. Please visit our table here in the corner. We'll be selling the new limited edition Quarto series prints from Patrick Cruz and Laiwan, Moira Davey and Lisa Robertson, Billy Ray Belcourt and Charlene Vickers, as well as 50th anniversary tote bags with art by Erdem Tasdalan. And we have discounted subscriptions for $35 for the year, which will include the 3 glossary-themed 50th anniversary issues that you've heard so much work from tonight. So we'll see you in 15.
so much to me, darling, so much I never knew. You were all the life was worth for, and you only had the key. Really, baby, no. I was such a lucky man the day you came my way. What happened then, baby? It was during dancing time when you said that you were in love. Oh yes, baby. And I prayed to Lord, what for? To send you back to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to take your seats, the program is about to begin. Again.
lucky man. Today you came my way. What happened? What happened? It was during dancing time when you said that you were in love. No, yes, no, 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 I said no, yes. I was a lucky man. I was a lucky man to get you back to me, baby. What about you, baby? No, no, I was happy, baby. No, no, no. I feel good too. I feel good too. I feel good too about you coming back to me. Know what? Oh, I feel happy. I wanna know what you feel, baby, about you coming back to me. Oh, oh, I feel happy. Oh, yes, you do, baby. Happy, baby. Happy. Yes, you do.
All right, so we're going to get started with the second half. I hope you all had a chance to compose some haikus and get some drinks and cheese over the break. And before we launch back into some in-person readings, we're going to have another little deep cut from the archives. So first up, we have a track from the Four Horsemen, who of course are B.P. Nicol, Rafael Barreto Rivera, Paul Dutton, and Steve McCaffrey. They first published this poem that you're about to hear in the sound poem issue. However, it was originally recorded for the studio album Nada Canadada, and the sound poetry issue appeared in 1984. So here are the Four Horsemen.
What I am about to say could be monotonous, but what is monotony if what I am about to say exploits monotony? I don't know, but this still does not answer my question as to what is monotony. I will try to answer, and as I was the one who posed the question, it should not be very difficult for me to find one, should it? What is monotony but the removal of the joy of anticipation, and thereby the removal of insecurity? What is monotony but this? Whatever is a process of repetition is monotony. Is monotony a process then of repetition? This is another question I have asked. It is only right that I answer it for you. What is repetition? I ask again, what is repetition? What is it? Is it an extension of dimensions, a destruction of boundaries? It is only just that I answer these questions, as I am the one who has posed them. But first I should tell you what Gertrude Stein has said about repetition. Having read a lot of Gertrude Stein, I should tell you what she says about repetition, shouldn't I? And as I am the one who has just asked this question, it is only right that I should answer it. This is, of course, should not be very difficult, as I am the one who has asked the question. Stein says, repetition. There is no repetition. There is no such thing as repetition. What is a repetition but an increase in insistence, an increase in pressure, whether it is visual pressure or tactual pressure or emotive pressure? It is an increase in insistence, not repetition. As I reach the bottom of this page, making my first typing error, I have no desire to amend and pretend I did not make it. As I reach the bottom, I should repeat, repetition is not really repetition but insistence. What has this to do with monotony? As I am the one who has just asked this question, I feel it is only right that I should answer it. After all, it should not be difficult to do so, as I am the one who has just asked this question. If monotony is a removal, but there you see I've started on a hypothetical, which is not really very good. I'll try. Whoops, there goes my first piece of punctuation. Monotony, I put it to you, is the removal of the joy of anticipation. Although I personally find little joy in anticipating, monotony is the removal of...
Did you say something? What?
Well, it's my pleasure to formally introduce David Geary, who you have already met. He was first published in the Burning House issue in the fall of the Cap Review in the fall of 2016. And he's also a colleague. He's a member of the Capilano Review's board of directors and a key figure in the magazine's naming committee. David writes theater, TV, film, fiction, and poetry. He teaches at Capilano University in the Indigenous Digital Filmmaking program. Of Maori descent, David was raised on stories of Maui, the Polynesian trickster. He's now honored to live on the unceded lands of the Raven and Coyote tricksters of Turtle Island. Ladies and gentlemen, David Geary.
Hey everyone, I'm going to leave my mask on because I kind of like the Baby Yoda look that my head gets, and I'm catching an aeroplane on Sunday to Aotearoa, New Zealand. So, ko Taranaki tuku iwi a Ngāti Pākehā, David Geary Takawingoa. So I am from Aotearoa, New Zealand, which is a long way across the water that way. I'm also of Scottish, Irish, English ancestry, colonial ancestry. I want to acknowledge what Cease said about welcoming us here, but also what we have to give back. I would encourage you all to look at the flagpole that is buried upside down outside the Polygon, which was created by the great artist Brian Jungen. And now birds have created something in the top of that. So I want to acknowledge the Tsleil-Waututh and the Squamish people whose lands I'm lucky to live, work, and play on. We have some people who contributed to the Ringa. Let's hear a big applause for them. I will say that I started writing haiku because of my children, because I could not write anything longer than about 3 lines. And so here are some that I wrote for my children. I can't explain this spark between us, static on the slide. Da da dad 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 dad. What is sadder than the boy who waves at empty trains? Kids, slow you right down. I see your shadow, Dad. See all the little things. Sadder than the boy who waves at the empty trains is his dad waving too. It's not a bean, it's a long P. Lies I have told children. Some people wrote versions of that. What is sadder than the boy who waves at the Rose Parade? Excellent work, clicking of fingers like we're in San Francisco. That was a great Ringa output. It's not a bean, it's a long P. Lies over dirt blanket. That is beautiful. I love whoever created that. It's not all there. What happened to the moon? Salty liquid pool. That was beautiful, whoever created that one. My version is, it is not all there. What happened to the moon? It's taking a bath. Just because I'm big doesn't mean I don't have feelings. I have big feelings. For boats to stop, Dad, they throw out their anger. Forget the Xbox. All a boy needs is a bug and a stick and time. Haiku for a micromanaging dad. Scratching graffiti off a picnic table with my car keys. Fuck you. Hey, worm on the path, we rescued you for our garden. You work for us now. Parent paradox haiku. I am not whining when I complain bitterly about the kids whining. Haiku for Philip Larkin. Kids, they F you up. Don't mean to, but with all the crumbs and poo, they do. I had to explain it's not a big coffee machine. Tahi's first steam train. We cut Samson's hair. He chewed the ears off a horse. Delilah, beware. Maybe you'd like to write plays when you're older. No, I will be grown up. So that was that's giving you a taste of my children. They kept me sane for a while. Let's move on to some more that people created. Summer grasses, all that remains, wispy permanence. So this is actually a Basho poem that is one of the most famous haiku of all time. Does anyone know how it actually ends? Wispy performance is brilliant, by the way. It's actually summer grass, all that remains of the dreams of warriors. They escape with their lives. managed to get married, he must be suitable. I'm going to say that that's what that says. The actual haiku from the master Buson, 1716 to 1783, they escape with their lives, manage to get married, they can at last change their clothes. So one of the really interesting things you'll find about haiku is they're not just about nature. They're actually about human nature. And the whole 575 thing is totally a construct that Western people... Yeah. Actually, speaking of soundings, the Japanese sounds are a lot shorter, and because English has done it with syllables, when people make haiku in the Western world, they're actually way too long usually. There's actually 575 sounds, so if you think about it, we are doing a kind of disservice to the original, although lots of people have changed the rules and changed it up. The other ones I would like to read. My melons that you stole last year, this year I place in the compost. I thought that was great. That actually, from the original Omaru, is my melons that you stole last year, this year I place upon your grave, my son. Yeah, boom. Death song. If they ask for me, say he had some business in another world. The one person in the audience wrote, death song. If they ask for me, say he had some business elsewhere. It pierces my heel as I walk in the bedroom, my late wife's comb. Congratulations, Issa, you have survived to feed this year's mosquitoes. I also translate famous people's words into haiku. This one was actually accidentally left out. It's either me or the wallpaper, one of us must go. That is Oscar Wilde. Okay, so finally, someone wrote, it's not all there, what happened to the moon? A dreamy space, a schemy space. So all those great people who did Ringa, thank you. We're going to have a haiku off in the corner at the end, or a lottery, and one of you will win the hat, or one of you will win that. And I will finish tonight with the rules, which a lot of people have discarded, but when I was doing my research, I went, I better know what the rules are, so I'm going to read you the rules very quickly, and that'll be it. There are 3 lines, but they were originally 3 pieces in one long line. Let's honour that here. There's a cutting word, hirija, where things change, but it's untranslatable. See also caesura. They don't have punctuation, titles, rhymes, or puns. Story plus haiku equal haibun. They're zen, but they can't be zen. That's asking too much of them. Themes include the transience of life, feelings of love and loss, cherry blossoms. They're not really a poem, more just an impression, a sketch, wham. They can congratulate, praise, describe, express gratitude, wit, cleverness, disappointment, resentment, or whatever you want, but rarely carry enlightenment. They are simply what is, happening in this place at this moment. A moment of awareness in which human nature is related to nature. There's a clash of 2 things, find meaning in the middle, flip them, pancake, trampoline. They can work like jokes, set up, build, punchline, badumcha, hi-hat, mic drop. They can be riddles, black cats that hate rabbit bits, that's bad luck. They're a way of life, more than a poem per se. Not literature, you must live in the moment. This is a tanker, 57577. Thank you.
Thanks, David. I felt that very deeply, not complaining when I complain about my kids complaining. Yeah, that hit me. Our next speaker is Ian Williams. Ian published 6 poems in the Work of Words issue, guest edited by Emmanuel Andrews and Catriona Strang in 2018. Ian Williams is the author of 6 books of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, most recently Disorientation and Word Problems. His novel Reproduction won the 2019 Scotiabank Giller Prize. He taught at the School of Creative Writing at UBC for several years before joining the University of Toronto as a professor. Here's Ian Williams.
Muted now. How about now? Can you hear me now? I still can't see you. Only your name. Your voice is breaking up. Sorry, I can't understand what you are. Say that again? You keep getting cut off before, getting cut off by some kind of echo from the system. Is it my connection, you think? I think it's yours. Am I the problem? Is it my problem? Some kind of echo. Maybe change your speaker. It's either you or me. I don't think it's me, but you never know. It says I'm connected, it says. Are you getting a signal? I can try. Where do I find... I'm not on my phone. I don't see it. Where are you looking? No, I don't have what you have. I've never had that option. I'm telling you, it's not here. Yours must be different. Oh, that. Oh, now I see. The light. Not red. No. What color should I be? Nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do about that. And we're losing time. We can go on without fixing it, as long as we can hear each other. You sound better than before. The echo is still there, and I still can't see you. You can see me, but I can't see you. I'm not at home. That's so funny. This is not my house. It's just my background. And I don't know how to change that. People change it for me. They said nobody wanted to see my old background. It was too messy. So they set me up against this fake background. If I'm not careful, I disappear into it. Do you see? A white outline around me? Whenever I move, whenever I look behind me, look what happens. I'll show you again, but then we have to move on, okay? See? Swallowed up by... See? Now should I share my... How do you share? Why don't you share yours instead?
Meredith Quartermain, first published in the 30th anniversary issue of TCR, 2.37, which appeared in 2002. Her contribution to the fall glossary will be her 12th time publishing in TCR. Meredith's most recent book, Lullabies in the Real World, 2020, was shortlisted for the Alberta Book Publishers Robert Croach Award for Poetry. Vancouver Walking, 2005, won a BC Book Award for Poetry. And Night Marker, 2008, was a finalist for a Vancouver Book Award. Other books include Recipes from the Red Planet, the novel Rupert's Land, the 3 novels, Rupert's Land, I, Bartleby, and You Girl. On Nomados, she was the editor of Nomados chapbooks, and in 2002, she published a wonderful chapbook called Wanders, which was a collaboration with Robin Blazer. And Meredith has a cold, and so she's asked me if I would read her poem. I'll try and do it justice. I better lick my lips for this one, I think. Zounds, by gad's swoons, good zooms, I was never so bethumped with words, talking to a crew of vagabonds. Zounds, they disown we, raise up such a kennel of devils. How do they know us is here? Fallen together by the ears, by the years, by the jeers, the leers, the muleteers, tears, the targeteers, petardeers, careening pairs, deranging the grey hairs. Swans by the god rack, the god's sting, the turn goodness. You stab this good gad, zoons mangle they with officers and bullies, warp they with blight, rot they with wreck. For God's sake you smite, you small, and the goodness, and the goodness, and the goodness sakes.
Huzzah. Brilliantly interpreted, Colin. And yeah, we're missing Meredith tonight. So next we have a reading from Fred Waugh, who's sent something in because he's currently in the Kootenays. Fred Waugh joined the list of TCR contributors in the fall of 1974 when he published selections of his pictograms from the interior of BC in issue 1.6. Fred is also in the double-digit publication club, having 10 publications in TCR. And I will mention pictograms and many other Fred Waugh writings can be viewed on fredwaugh.ca. Little shameless self-plug there. Fred's most recent project is Music at the Heart of Thinking, Improvisations 1 through 70 from Talon Books in 2020. Also recently a collaboration with Rita Wong about the Columbia River, Beholden, a poem as long as the river. Hi Muckamuck, Playing Chinese, an interactive poem, is available online at www.himuckamuck.ca. He lives in Vancouver and on Kootenay Lake. Here's Fred.
This is a piece called By and By, and it's in 3 sections, and here are the first 2 sections. Alki Nasaika Wawa Weg Bimbe, J. Paul says. Soon we will talk again, by and by, maybe in a little while. But behind this, I was younger. I understand now half as much. Then wait, that was long ago. The more we cut through, the less we change. Already my death is my own. Time not yet verbed, understood to be natural. Eventually, I will know this elastic forest. So you say. Some long time ago, even next week, I will understand the numbers and the location, and I'll go there in the story alongside the river, by and by. If it's indicative, maybe we will go in my boat. Before noon, I was younger. Now I feel strong, just another older brother. Spelling has never had anything to do with it, or has it? There are rules which may not be easy to comprehend. Also, keep it simple. Row, row. If it's a canoe, remember all that talk about northern waters. Glass. That time was glass. Paddle your own North Atlantic turbine. There was dirt. There was the earth. Deep time lurks. Ocean then was further. Just a post office surrounded by interior lakes Salish. I thought of it as leaning. The theory of rain bends. My bardo is post-mortem, postmodern. Another bad trip. Almost a festival. A regular chakomika. Coming to you or at you. Good to be home again, ain't it? But in the by time, coming round. 2. Twilight at the edge of town, Mark Sue says. By and by, we need to search for an interruption. we need to flip to two light. Between the river and the power line, the chain of recognition is released. Time flies and stays still at the same time, back and forth. Below the snow line, above the tree line, these are the lines between the poles. Blind matter in the sky, landscape at the mouth. The lines that become faces above the water, if you can remember them. A quantum entanglement. Looky, looky, there's the interference, beam pattern between two places at once. Hologrammer effect, not just dual, but 4 steps, negative, positive, forward, negative, positive, backward. Or no, yes, no, yes. Waves coincide at the gate of words, until you get to the bridge and the grammar of a long summer day takes over. It never used to be this hard to navigate the edges, so then, so then, so then. Electron tongues interfere with themselves, so like play. Remember how the noon sun smells. Remember the future. Look both ways for trains and listen to the signal's insistent clanging, clanging. The rule is similar. Far means near. Undeclared enigmas wander bumpy and flecked. Betwixtuation's disobedience. Between two tracks, the hyphen lies. So then ramble, if you think we'll be able to, and know the line is a cycle too. Creosote fringing the tracks, brink of the river slope, wait and wait. The density bogs, all summer long here and there. Coincident barking, distant barking. A laminated panorama, a circle clanking, walking into town as if living there was only on one side and we had to be between here and there. The rare seam of graphite shining. What will, then? This and that sings the interval we want to hear that sound again, especially that bump. Jack into the meantime. No diff. The rendering of the interval in that photo was soot. It's black and daytime neon, along the tracks, residue, and connections to navigate the light. We fished through the open doors of the creek, could hear the neighborhood, but I would fall asleep again. At dawn, I'd wake to the sound of an incessant siren, a reminder that kept reminding. When is never the same place again. Standing in the doorway is such a struggle, but a gate would help. Could be a different marker to the untrained eye. A side-to-side door. History had already done that really messy work. By and by would have to go to work again, but the interval remained the same. So the stage is mass, poetry's mess, augmented, a raw bardo, just passing through a perfect fourth. At the same time, I could hear its regularity. Habit hadn't come to work yet. Overtime, the town spills, the edges garbage, combined by the thingness of place. Memory, he said, is a kind of a hulk, a chain, or a balloon wafting over 2 steel tracks. Not the caboose, but what's after.
Carried away there for a moment. Well, now it's a pleasure to introduce Shazia Hafiz Ramji, who was first published in TCR in the fall of 2016, issue 3.30. Shazia is the author of Port of Being, a finalist for the 2019 Vancouver Book Award, BC Book Prizes, Dorothy Livesey Poetry Prize, the Gerald Lampert Memorial Award, and the winner of the Robert Croach Award for Innovative Poetry. Her work appeared in Best Canadian Poetry 2019, and both her poetry and prose were nominated for 2020 Pushcart Prizes. In 2021, she was a finalist for the National Magazine Awards and the Mitchell Prize for Faith and Poetry. And her fiction was shortlisted for the Malahat Review's 2022 Open Season Awards. Her writing has recently appeared in Galleries West, Canadian Notes and Queries, and Quill and Choir. She's a co-editor for Watch Your Head, an anthology on the climate crisis, and is at work on a novel. Shazia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. And I also want to say thank you to Matea Kulich for encouraging me to just go deeper with this piece in the TCR called Ear. I wrote it during a really difficult time last year when I was conducting self-surveillance yet again, and this time I'd mic'd my house to make sure that I wasn't being paranoid about being stalked again, because I didn't think it could happen again. But it did, and so I wrote this poem called Ear, because listening has been saving my life, I think. And I'm realizing now that there are two ways to read this poem, and I'm going to read it a second way. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for listening. Ear. Rest. 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 Thank you all for listening, and thanks for running with that. That was, I just came up with it, and I was just feeling Colin's energy, so I felt like doing this. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Shazia, and thanks for that call to listen. Next is Jordan Scott. The first anniversary issue was Jordan Scott's third publication in the Capilano Review since he joined us in the winter of 2015. Jordan is a poet and a children's author. He's written 5 books of poetry and was the recipient of the 2018 Latiner Writers Trust Poetry Prize for his contributions to Canadian poetry. His debut children's book, illustrated by Sydney Smith, I Talk Like a River, was a New York Times Best Children's Book of 2020 and the recipient of the Schneider Family Book Award, which honors authors for the artistic expression of disability experience. And he'll be joining us by video. Here he is.
A cold. Our embodiments caught in a summer dawn swallow. I'm in the candy weed, the cracklings, the stomotoplasm, the grunted jade. I'm coloring wildflowers with a purple crayon. We just got back from our hike. Some mountain, some edge, some impossible heat. I'm coloring wildflowers with a purple crayon, the ones you told me about, the ones I've already forgotten. There's an ailing hue outside the window of the car. It's the color of sickness and bushfires. It's the color of all the bodies of our families dead and dying. It's the color of no more sycamore scars on lightly dusted rivers. I've been keeping things in my mind from you. The briars bright in the onyx mist, fizzing low light, necrophiled feed bags, chainsaws, celestial strap-on. It's me again. It's the middle of a luxuriant summer, and I follow the sleepwalker's crumbs. How the grass is all gone, how the sea lions breathe porous as mirrors. I think about the despair we've made together and watch you learn to hate your face and start to think the sky is a cavern where none can find themselves, where prison hawks blown particles write the shape of leaves, and where you learn mouth writing atop clear waterfalls. Lupin, Trent, Stotan. Only one more minute, Sash. You got it. It doesn't matter. It's hard to be a person in a field of small animals. You once told me that it's hard to be a person when the flowers keep changing names. I want to watch you make a score in a field with your hands and liquefy the landscape until everything dies gorgeously stereofluoroscopic. I throw a flower to the ground. It's the middle of grave light now, incessant rain now, incandescent rain writes in air. No more wanderings. I once said to you that our nesting secretions are like stylized muscles, and that these muscles are a stream in the morning, a nameless lake in afternoon, and you talked about a body close to you, wading into the lake until the hips covered as slow and purposeful as shadows creep across the moon. There's a house up the hill from where we're swimming. The green-blue water spills out in all directions. A roughly oval-like imaginary of hawks and warblers fucking this oval outline, and all the sound that could be water. I walk further into the cinema of this lake bed, kicking up cinnamon plumes of what could be grasslands urging to a glossy peak. It's June 30th. It's her birthday. The middle of a luxuriant summer, and I would have thought about snake holding you, trying to get you changed, snake holding cacti in the shape of a marmot. If the line is the measure of a body writhing, then I am under the lake now, looking upwards and begging with a childlike thunder to be taken glacially and whole. 10 seconds, okay? Grab a hold of my neck. It's okay. I'm in the liverberries now. A kinnick fainting translucency. I'm the witch bells, shiplessly alive. I'm coloring the flowers with a purple crayon. I'm waiting for both of us to outlove the moment, outlove our pastoralness. When we last said something, I think you said, I'm going to pee in the huckleberries. I'm the cinnamon root now. I'm the head waters of our fucked upness. Which way is there to go? Okay?
Thanks, Jordan. Filmed by his eldest son, in case that wasn't clear, on a canoe trip. So this is the last piece of the evening. It's one of the major pleasures of being somebody who gets to look through or listen through archives, is coming upon this next clip, which just knocked me to the floor. It's a clip by Adina Karasik, who is reading at the Bill Bissett Tribute in 1997. Of course, she also published work in the corresponding 1997 Bill Bissett Festschrift, and Adina also published in the Grief and Poetics issue in 2002. And I just wanted to end on this piece, I think, because I just love how she discusses the ethics of living in language, and also just the profound connection that we have with each other through this community of writers and artists. And I just feel like that's a lovely place to land. So here is Adina Karasik.
The next person that'll be up here is Adina Karasik, all the way from New York.
Thanks a lot. Well, I've only known Bill for about 15 years, and in that time we've shared a lot of stuff together, and he's taught me so much. But mostly I remember this time that we were on a reading tour in Europe, and we were on the hovercraft going from Austin to Dover, and it was really, really stormy, and the boat was dancing frenetically from side to side, and water was flooding the deck, and cappuccino was spilling, and people were hysterical and vomiting, and even the stewards had on their life jackets. We were convinced that we were going down, down, and Bill held me in his arms, caressing my head, and kept chanting into me, not of rainbows, but of magic lightning, of drowning, of water, water everywhere, washing over us like language, like letters, and how we could be like little mermaids, 60,000 leagues under the sea. And we were not rowing gently down the stream, but rolling on the very big river. And he wanted to be where our lives would always be bright and shiny, with Jacques Cousteau maybe, and a magical garden. Or like a cedilla under the sea. And when I think about what Bill has taught me the most, it's just that. How he's never scared to look anything in the face, to dissolve the boundary, to live life without fear or reserve, but with an intensity, a passion, and a beauty that infuses itself into his language, his life, where there is no difference. And more than anything, teaching me how to love when you live inside your words, when your language is your life, when there is no separation between what's lived and what's written, what's sounded and remembered, teaching me to rage with the bliss and ecstasis of a language lived with every breath, every moment, with a fullness and a beauty.
So thus concludes our program for the evening. Thank you for your attention. And once again, thanks to the Polygon Gallery for hosting us and Canada Council for supporting this programming. Thanks again to Cease Weiss for the opening land acknowledgement, to co-host Colin Brown, co-host extraordinaire. And of course, again, please go and visit Jackie and Lauren at the merch table here. We have single issues, we have discounted subscriptions, we have our beautiful Quarto series and tote bags and all other kinds of fun things. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and have a good night.